Los Angeles. And since that time, some members of both gangs have looked for new ways to redirect their energy. And as Mary Major Jack shows us, they're turning their frustrations into money.
Bangin' On Wax is an album containing the redirected energies of members of the Bloods and the Crips, two violent rival Los Angeles gangs. The idea was to have the gang members deal with their differences verbally instead of physically and create some honest
The album hit gold and climbed to number 86 on Billboard.
We're trying to show them that we can come together, make a record, and show positive issues, and at the same time, prove that we have talents, other than just pulling triggers and doing whatever.
But for many of the people behind it, the story didn't end with trophies and flashing lights. It ended with homicide. AWOL was ended by the police.
Me, Lil Hawk, B-Braze, Laniac, man, f***ing Spider, Bloody Mary, all of them are gone. Except me, all of them are gone.
Big Freeze was blasted down the street. B. Brazy got caught in an ambush. Peanut took 17 bullets to his body. Lil Lanny Actio was slain with his own daughter by his side. And the tragedy didn't stop there. Spider OG, Maddie, Bloody Mary, all gone, turning what should have been a breakthrough moment into a bloody trail of heartbreak.
Is on one side, the Crips is on one side. We're looking at each other. Some of us know each other, some of us don't. Some of us want to communicate, some of us don't, because it's like, I don't know what to get from this.
So how did this madness even start? Back in 1993, Los Angeles was drowning in chaos. Bloods and Crips were locked in non-stop shootouts, trading lives for lives in a never-ending loop of payback.
I did a couple rap competitions. Actually, that's how we started Bangin' On Wax. I did a rap competition. Out of probably around 150 to 200 rappers, I took third place. That's how I met Tweety Bird and Ronnie Phillips.
Compton, Watts, Long Beach, and Inglewood were scarred block after block by years of gang battle that felt like it would never end. But out of that madness came a wild plan, a mission to snatch gang voices off the block and drag them into the recording booth. That vision became Bangin' On Wax. The idea was straight up risky. Real bangers would audition, only the strongest would make the cut, and together they'd flip their street battles into raw, unfiltered music.
Me and Tweety Bird came up with the concept of Bangin' On Wax. Me and Tweety Bird took it to Robert Lewis, which is his studio. So he took the idea to Ronnie Phillips, and then that's when the album was made, that's when history was made, and that's when they f***ed us over.
At the center stood OYG Red Rum 781, a blood reppin' Avenue Peru, and Tweety Bird Locke, a Crip from Kelly Park, Compton.
Ones I'm really worried about is the BJs, the baby gangsters. And once they realize, hey man, instead of me picking up my 9 to shoot you, I'd rather pick up an 8-pen and write a diss rhyme. You know, that's basically what it's all about.
Red Rum first linked with Tweety and producer Robert Lewis at a rap competition, placing third out of 200 rappers. That moment lit the fuse. From there, the pitch went to Lewis, who brought in producer Ronnie Phillips, and he got it right away. Phillips saw the studio as neutral ground, a spot where enemies could spit bars instead of spray bullets.
Red is the color identified with the Bloods. The Crips wear blue. 16 gang members have put aside their weapons and their differences and united as rappers.
But making that dream real wasn't easy. Old grudges crept into the sessions, egos clashed, and tempers exploded. Still, one rule kept the peace. The studio was for music only. No guns, no beef. Leave that battle at the door.
So first off, I'm from Inglewood, the city of Inglewood, if you don't know, from Avenue Piru, APG. And we located on the Crenshaw between the 109th, 104th, and 108th. So those are our blocks. So like my brother came up with a thing because like all my homies was banging, you know what I'm saying? They would be block tripping, you know what I'm saying?
Let's remind everybody, your brother is the late, great Red Rum 781.
Oh yeah, Red Rum 781.
In the end, 16 members stepped up, dropped their weapons, and let their pain loose on the mic. Among them was Bloody Mary, the only woman in the crew, staking her claim in a dangerous but historic experiment. Her voice was deep, commanding, and full of power, so much that plenty of people swore she had to be a man. Born in Steubenville, Ohio, she eventually landed in Compton, where she connected with the Avenue Peru and Fruittown Peru sets. That's where she ran into Tweety Bird Locke, who pulled her into the project that would flip her whole world upside down.
Now, I don't look at them as being Bloods or Crips. I look at them as being my brother. Once we understood that, we started a relationship. And once you start a relationship, then you can work together. Then you become business partners. Then you can grow, become producers, actors, whatever. Because these guys make more money than I do in a week just on the street. So my thing was to come up with a record. These guys can make some money and can bear.
Another heavy name in the mix was Lil Lee, Redrum's younger brother, also repping Avenue Peru. His presence took things to another level, showing this wasn't just music. It was bloodlines, pride, and legacy colliding on wax. For producer Ronnie Phillips, though, it went way deeper than gang colors. In one interview, he flat out said, "I don't see Bloods and Crips, I see my brothers." His mission was personal. If he could get these men to put the pistols down, step into the booth, and see that music brought real money to the table, maybe he could pull them out of the graveyard cycle. What spilled out of those long, tense late-night sessions was way more than an experiment. It was therapy in raw form.
I mean, I didn't know half the guys, but they came there, no violence. I mean, it was a little confrontations, but when everybody understood, hey man, we're here to make records. We're not here to fight and kill each other. We're here to make records. It was cool.
Later on down the line, we will put these away, you know what I'm saying, and be able to kick it amongst one another without having to say, damn, that's Blood, or I'm a Crip, you know what I'm saying? We can just kick it homeboys, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be black ones, yeah, it's going to be a black thing.
Pain got twisted into poetry. Rival sets traded disses in rhyme instead of gunfire. Yeah, there were flare-ups, but the shocker was how often sworn enemies ended up side by side, not lurking on corners, but standing shoulder to shoulder at the mic. When Banging on Wax finally dropped in March 1993, it shook the streets to the core. This wasn't a fake studio gimmick. This was real gang voices straight out the battle zones of LA, and the people felt every word. Against all odds, the record climbed to number 86 on the Billboard 200, went gold, and pushed over 500,000 copies. Tracks like Banging on Wax, Crip, 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 and Steady Dippin' hit differently because they weren't fantasies. They were survival stories on beat. For one rare moment, music built a fragile truce, pulling in not just the streets, but the entire rap game's attention. And it wasn't only the grit that shocked listeners, it was the curveballs too. Just look at Peru Love. The track turned into an anthem with its smooth melodic hook sung by Faux Clips Eclipse. A Crip singing on a Bloods anthem? That wasn't just shocking, it was history in the making, a symbol of how fragile unity could spark even inside a room full of rivals. The impact exploded once the visuals dropped. Music videos for Banging on Wax, Peru Love, and Steady Dippin' lit up TV screens, showing the raw faces and raw energy behind the bars. Steady Dippin', performed by the Crip Crew Underworld Connection, even brought in DJ Battlecat, one of the most respected producers on the West Coast. That cosign alone stamped the project with undeniable street and industry credibility. Then came one of the wildest moments. The arrival of Sinlock, the masked Crip whose mysterious look and cold delivery had fans locked in. And you can't forget AWOL from Kelly Park Compton Crips. He wasn't just another rapper. He became the heartbeat of the series, dropping more verses than anyone else and commanding the screen in videos like Banging on Wax and G's and Locks. His style, his presence. AWOL turned himself into one of the project's most unforgettable figures. Even the industry heavyweights had to pay attention. Suge Knight, busy building Death Row into a dynasty, took notice and signed Bloody Mary, the lone female on the first album, whose booming voice had already set her apart. That move showed the game this wasn't just some street experiment anymore. This was real business with real stars being made. With the first album proving the vision had teeth, the sequel dropped in 1994, Banging on Wax 2. The saga continues. It didn't shake the earth like the debut, but it still made noise, hitting number 139 on the Billboard 200 and climbing all the way to number 20 on the R&B/hip-hop chart. Videos like G's and Locks and Wish You Were Here kept the fire alive, pushing the movement further into the spotlight. For a moment, it felt like the impossible had happened. Men who once sprayed bullets at each other were now trading verses, standing on the same stage, and proving their stories carried weight beyond their neighborhoods. But while the music was rising, the streets still had a chokehold on LA. That fragile piece held inside the studio, but outside the city was still drenched in blood. Banging on Wax had proved beats could bridge gaps bullets never would, but it couldn't wipe away decades of battle. And soon, the cost of that reality came crashing down hard. In November 1995, Peanut 2, reppin' Denver Lane Bloods and featured on the Damu Ritas' side of the project, was ambushed and lit up by rival Crips. 17 bullets tore through his body, ending his life instantly. His passing wasn't just a tragedy, It was a gut punch to the entire movement, crushing the hope that music could somehow protect these men from the streets they came from. That same year, the pain doubled. Lil Lonnie Act II, also out of Denver Lane and tied to the Damuritas, was taken out in a brutal drive-by ambush by the 83 gangsters. The horror cut even deeper because his young daughter was right there when it happened. That wasn't just another statistic. It was a nightmare that shattered a family forever. But the blood didn't stop spilling. By 1996, Tiptoe from Crenshaw Mafia Bloods, a key voice in the Damuritas, was ended by a member of the neighborhood Peru gang. The cycle of payback felt endless, dragging more names into the grave with every passing year. And the Crips weren't spared either. In 1997, AWOL Donald Stallworth, one of the most iconic voices of the nationwide Rip Ritas, met his end in shocking fashion. But here's the twist. It wasn't rivals who took him out. It was a police officer in Oceanside, California. His passing proved one thing loud and clear. No matter how far their music traveled, the system and the streets were always waiting. AWOL's passing rocked the circle. His close homies, like Gangsta Bone and BG Scarface, mourned openly, with Gangsta Bone even recording a tribute track to honor him. But heartbreak kept coming. On December 25th, 1999, Big Freeze, real name Lazen Kenner, of the Watts Franklin Square Crips and a member of the Rip Ritas, was gunned down on Christmas Day. A holiday meant for love and peace turned into a bloody headline, leaving the streets in shock and the project's legacy dripping in sorrow. By the end of the 1990s, the end toll was staggering. 7 of the 9 main members of the Damuritas were gone, taken by gang violence. What started as a revolutionary attempt to turn warfare into music had collided head-on with the cold reality that beats couldn't always block bullets. These early passings became a dark warning of even more tragedy still waiting around the corner. The truth couldn't be ignored. While Banging On Wax gave unity its moment in the spotlight, it also carried a razor-sharp edge. Those diss tracks weren't fun and games. They were poison. Raw, venomous insults that cut deep, reopened old scars, and turned microphones into weapons deadlier than knives. Even BG Knockout, the Compton rapper best remembered for teaming with Eazy-E on Real G's, wanted nothing to do with it. He admitted he got the invite to join the first sessions, but walked away because he knew the danger was off the charts. In his own words, the whole concept was doomed from the start. Imagine dropping brutal disses against rivals you were already at battle with, then blasting them across every hood in LA. BG said it plain, that was straight up crazy. And he wasn't lying. The 1990s were the years of gangbanging, and putting explicit callouts on Wax wasn't just bold, it was suicidal.
We get ours by death, huh? Basically, where do retirement papers come in, blood? At what age do I turn into a kickback OG gangster or some old shit? Man, that ain't gonna never happen, blood. My goals in life ain't to be an OG, period. That's for real, YG for life, huh? On lanes, I'm an old YG, period. That's the best I could be.
The streets weren't forgiving, and the tragedies that crushed the first wave of Banging On Wax artists in the mid-90s were only the beginning of a darker storm. By 2000, the cycle claimed yet another victim. Spider, known as SP-a Crenshaw Mafia Blood tied to the Damuritas, was at a Watts block party that should have been nothing but good times. But the celebration turned into a battle zone when Rollin 60s Crips pulled up and opened fire. Bullets tore through the crowd, people scattered, and Spider was ended on the spot. 1 second, it was music and laughter. The next, it was pure carnage. Not long after, the streets delivered another devastating blow.
Whoever rapping that's a blood right now know about Braves. I don't give a who you are. Game, I don't give a who you are. You know, Lil Wayne probably know who B Braves is. That's how popular the was. Yeah.
OG Madi, also from Crenshaw Mafia Bloods and a strong voice on the Damuritas' side, was slayed in a drive-by. But the pain doubled when his brother Lil Mad was taken in the same ambush. 2 brothers erased in one burst of gunfire, leaving behind a wound no family, no block could ever heal. By the early 2000s, one figure had stepped into the spotlight, B. Brazy. Born Bruce Parrish of Denver Lane Bloods, he wasn't just a rapper, he was a star with charisma that jumped off every track. His peers, including Lil Lee, remembered him as someone who lived by the code. Brazy himself once declared he would never stop banging. Those words weren't just bravado, they became prophecies. On May 9th, 2003, B. Brazy's past came knocking in the worst way. Ambushed in Inglewood, he was riddled with bullets and later found unresponsive at the Sandman Motel on West Manchester Boulevard. His slaying shook the entire city, and to this day, it's still unsolved. Police even threw out a $25,000 reward for answers, but nothing ever stuck. Whispers spread fast. Some claimed it was betrayal from inside his circle. Others swore enemies had set him up, but the truth never came to light. And not every heartbreak was tied directly to gang warfare. Bloody Mary, the lone female powerhouse from the first Banging on Wax, met a completely different kind of tragedy. Born Rajni Faz, she carved respect in a male-dominated scene with her thunderous voice that demanded attention. But on November 19, 2006, her life took a sharp and devastating turn. While cruising her motorcycle through Compton, she was struck during a high-speed police chase. A truck fleeing officers smashed straight into her bike. The collision left her brain dead, and soon after, life support was pulled. Just like that, another unforgettable voice from the project was silenced, and the saga added yet another heartbreaking chapter. But even for those who dodged bullets and rivals, survival was never promised. Inner demons claimed lives too. BG Scarface, a Crip out of Atlantic Drive, Compton, and one of the loudest voices on the nationwide Rip Riders, survived the bloody 90s, but in 2012, he was found passed, with his passing ruled a suicide. The message was clear. The pain didn't stop when the gunfire cooled down. It just found other ways to eat them alive. The funerals piled up endlessly. Lil Lee, who had already witnessed too many friends fall, remembered a stretch where every single year meant another funeral, sometimes more than one. By his own count, he lost about 30 friends from Avenue Piru alone, plus another 20 from Crenshaw Mafia. Some died from bullets, others rotted in prison, a few got swallowed by illness. But the cycle of loss never let up. The streets always collect their debt, and while Banging on Wax gave a voice to the silenced, it couldn't shield its creators from the brutal reality outside the booth. The dream of trading guns for microphones was powerful, but in Los Angeles, survival was always a roll of the dice, no matter how loud the music blasted. By the early 2000s, Banging on Wax had fizzled out as a group project, but the echoes wouldn't die. Some survivors fought to carve solo lanes, scrambling to stay alive in a rap game that was changing fast. Others walked away from music completely, but carried the scars of what they had built. No closure, just a new, lonely chapter of survival. Still, a few stood out and pushed the legacy forward. B. Brazy, before his shocking slaying in 2003, had already been laying down solo tracks soaked in raw street reality. His music carried his wild charisma, but also the dark truth of a man who never fully escaped the pull of the gang world. And Bloody Mary, her deep, commanding voice gave her a unique lane, proving she could go toe-to-toe with any man in that cutthroat West Coast gangster rap era. Lil Lee, another early voice from the movement, kept grinding too. Even while rooted in Piru life, he turned rap into more than just an expression. He used it as a tool to mentor and to honor fallen friends. But Lee admitted the scars ran deep. Years of funerals, betrayals, and prison sentences weighed heavy on him. Music became his way of keeping the end alive, refusing to let their stories vanish. But not everyone found that strength. For every artist who tried to build off Banging on Wax, others slipped back into the same trap, caught in cases, locked in beef, or stuck in the same blocks that raised them. Music opened doors, but it couldn't erase instincts drilled in by years of blood, loss, and survival in the trenches. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles rap scene had flipped into a new chapter. By the mid-2000s, a fresh wave of artists, led by The Game, dragged gang affiliation right back into the spotlight. But this time, it looked different. Unlike Banging on Wax, which literally threw Bloods and Crips into the same studio, this new era leaned more on branding, colors, hand signs, and set claims packaged into a marketable image. For the veterans of Banging on Wax, the difference was crystal clear. Their tracks came out of real, dangerous unity, not just a label strategy. The legacy of Banging on Wax hit bittersweet. Those artists had been the pioneers, carving out space for gangs in rap long before the industry was brave enough to touch it. But while labels later cashed in on the culture, many of the original voices were left scrambling just to survive. Still, the movement never disappeared. Interviews, documentaries, and retrospectives kept popping up, always reminding people just how groundbreaking that first project really was. Writers, scholars, and hip-hop heads pointed out that what Ron Phillips pulled off in 1993 wasn't some gimmick. It was history, a raw time capsule of Los Angeles in one of its most explosive, violent eras. The music didn't just spit out street bravado, it bled pain, anger, and the daily struggle of neighborhoods torn apart by battle. For the ones who survived long enough to tell it, the legacy of Banging on Wax was both a blessing and a curse. On one side, they were part of something legendary, an album that actually charted on Billboard and carved its name deep into hip-hop history. But on the other side, the endless funerals and shattered lives served as a brutal reminder of how fragile it really was to exist in the gang world. As time moved forward, their paths split in different directions. Some pushed harder into music, chasing the dream with new energy, while others slipped into quieter lives, far away from the booth. But no matter where they went, the shadow of Banging on Wax never left them. It was a chapter they couldn't escape, a story balanced on the edge of hope and heartbreak, unity and bloodshed. So what do you think? Was Banging on Wax a miracle moment in music history, or just a dangerous experiment doomed from day one? Drop your thoughts in the comments, make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.